June 2019, Kamoiwa Sportsland in Minato Ward, Nagoya. In a quiet corner of the rink, a man stood alone. He checked skate sizes at the rental counter, handed out gear to customers, and kept a watchful eye over casual skaters on the ice. His shift ran 6 to 8 hours a day, a routine no different from a typical college part-time job. At night, he worked the front desk of a nearby lodging facility. That man was Ryuichi Kihara. He was once known as one of Japan's top pair skaters, a two-time Olympic competitor who had proudly represented his country on the world stage. But at that moment, he was far removed from the spotlight. It is almost impossible to believe that just 7 years before electrifying Japan with a historic score of 158.13 points in Milan, gliding across the ice while supporting Riku Miura with a single arm, he was here, quietly working behind a counter in a local rink. When I first heard this, I was speechless. Human potential is impossible to predict. You can look at someone at their lowest point and still have no idea who they will become just a few years later. Ryuichi Kihara's journey proves that truth better than almost anyone. Why was he there? And how did he rise back to the top? Stay with me until the end, because the story of those 7 years is far deeper, more difficult, and more human than it ever appeared from the outside. Today, we uncover the truth behind the gold medal. After the 2018 Winter Olympics, Kihara's career began to quietly fall apart. A shoulder injury, a concussion during training, and the breakup with his partner all hit him at nearly the same time. His body was reaching its limit, and without a partner, his reason to continue began to fade. His motivation slowly melted away like ice under pressure. By the spring of 2019, at just 26 years old, Kihara was seriously considering retirement. While not old for a figure skater, both his body and mind were exhausted. He could no longer find a reason to return to competition. So he went back to the rink, not as an athlete, but as a worker. At the rental counter, the same hands that once performed on the Olympic stage now checked skate sizes for customers. His co-workers later described him as kind, cheerful, and thoughtful, someone who approached every task with care. But behind that smile, there was likely a quiet fear that his skating career might end without meaning. Every time I hear this part of his story, I'm reminded that true dignity comes from continuing to give your best, no matter where life places you. Around that same time, Riku Miura was also facing her own uncertainty. After her pair split, she had no guarantee of finding a new partner. Japan had no established pair skating coaches, and going abroad required money, language skills, and courage. No one could tell her what the future held, but she refused to wait. She chose to act. When she heard about a male skater who was also searching for a new path, she didn't hesitate. She reached out to Ryuichi Kihara, the man working at that rental counter, and asked a simple question: "Would you like to skate together?" Kihara later admitted he was shocked. At a time when he felt like he was fading from the sport, someone reached out and gave him a chance. At the end of July 2019, the two stepped onto the ice together for the first time. Kihara described that moment as lightning striking. Miura said it didn't feel forced, it just naturally clicked. But let's pause here for a moment. Words like "it felt natural" and "like lightning" sound beautiful, but they don't happen without years of effort behind them. Kihara's experience, his Olympic appearances, his injuries, and his setbacks all led to that moment. Miura's journey, from discovering skating in Takarazuka to building flexibility through rhythmic gymnastics and mental strength through karate, also led her there. What looked like fate was actually the result of years of struggle and preparation. Opportunities don't come to those who wait. They come to those who keep moving forward, even when they're hurt. In August 2019, their partnership was officially announced, and soon after, they moved to Oakville, Canada. That's where their 7-year journey truly began. The first challenge was language. Miura wasn't confident in English, and while Kihara could communicate somewhat, handling detailed coaching instructions in a foreign language was exhausting. Every meeting, every choreography discussion, and every injury report required far more time and energy than it would in their native language. Behind that struggle were countless lonely nights that no one ever saw. Then came the loneliness. In the beginning, Kihara lived alone in an apartment while Miura stayed with a host family. With a noticeable age difference and unfamiliar surroundings, their relationship felt awkward at first. After practice, they would return to separate lives. Meals, routines, and free time didn't align easily. Imagine being in a foreign country, unable to fully communicate, and still feeling distant from the one person who is supposed to be your closest partner. That kind of isolation is hard to understand unless you've lived it. But over time, things changed. They moved into a shared house, living under the same roof. Even with separate rooms, they began sharing their daily lives. They cooked together, spent their days off together, and slowly built a rhythm. Eventually, they were spending nearly 360 days a year side by side. That number says everything. Pair skating isn't just about what happens on the ice. It's built through daily life, understanding each other's habits, facing weaknesses, and choosing to stay together through it all. That deep connection is what made their performances feel so effortless in Milan. And yet, their journey wasn't just filled with beautiful moments. It was tested again and again. In 2022, Miura suffered a shoulder dislocation during practice just before a competition. She had to step away from the ice. Kihara later said it felt like his heart stopped. When they finally returned to the ice together, he realized something powerful, that they truly functioned as one. That realization carries weight. Sometimes, you only understand someone's importance when they're gone. What once felt normal suddenly reveals its true value. Her injury reminded them that their bond was not just technical, it was essential. But the challenges didn't end there. A serious back injury followed, one of the most feared conditions for an athlete. They had to withdraw from Skate America and the NHK Trophy. Even after climbing back from the depths of despair in 2019 and achieving historic success together, his body began to break down again. Kihara later admitted he wasn't in a condition to compete, that his determination had turned into frustration. Behind those words were pressure, regret, and a deep sense of responsibility toward Miura. It was a moment that mirrored his darkest days. But this time, something was different. When Kihara fell, Miura stayed strong. And when Miura struggled, Kihara refused to fall. That is where their true strength lived. For 7 years, this never changed. When Kihara fell, Miura held him up. When Miura collapsed, Kihara became her support. Through that endless cycle, an unspoken promise was born between them, that when one breaks, the other will stand. This wasn't something you build through practice alone. It came from living nearly 360 days a year together, from knowing each other's weaknesses completely and choosing to stay anyway. That is a different kind of strength, one only a true pair can possess. The next day, the free skate began. The moment the music from Gladiator echoed through the arena, they stood on the ice, calm, focused, as if the pain of the previous day had never existed. The opening triple twist lift soared. Ryuichi Kihara launched Riku Miura into the air. She rotated 3 times and landed with precision. In that instant, I couldn't help but see another image overlapping in my mind. The man standing behind a skate rental counter just years before. The distance between those 2 moments felt almost impossible to measure. Then came the throw jumps, the side-by-side jumps. Their movements blended together like a single living being, perfectly synchronized. As the 4 minutes unfolded, the energy inside the Milan arena kept rising. And then, near the end, came the lift that defined everything. Kihara gliding across the ice, holding Miura with just one hand. Every single day they had spent together was contained in that one moment, in that one hand. The music ended, the pose hit, and the arena exploded. The scoreboard lit up, 158.13 points, the highest free skate score in history, a total of 231.2 points. From 5th place in the short program to a stunning comeback victory, Japan's first ever Olympic gold medal in pair skating. Miura dropped to her knees, covering her face. Kihara looked up at the sky before collapsing onto the ice, and when they embraced, something hit me deeply. Back in June 2019, standing at that rental counter in Nagoya, could he have ever imagined this moment? Probably not. And that's exactly why life is worth continuing. The world reacted instantly. The BBC declared that Miura and Kihara had made history with a stunning comeback. A former British skater turned commentator said it was one of the most emotionally powerful performances he had ever witnessed. Broadcasters in North America called it one of the greatest comebacks in Olympic figure skating history. Canadian media took pride in the pair, who had trained in their own backyard, breaking a world record. French outlets described the performance as a masterpiece on ice. Korean headlines emphasized the dramatic comeback with a record-breaking score. Even former Russian world champions, long dominant in pair skating, took to social media to congratulate them and recognize their achievement. In Italy, where the event was held, headlines called it a fairy tale from Japan. No one expected a Japanese pair to deliver something this powerful on that stage. Online, reactions poured in from around the world. I cry every time I watch it, but after learning Kihara once worked a part-time job at a skate rink, it hits even harder. The way he held her with one hand. That's not just technique, that's 7 years of trust. When they were 5th after the short program, I thought it was over. This really was a miracle. Each of these voices proves something important, that their story went far beyond winning or losing. It reached something deeper inside people. In Japan, there's a saying, fall 7 times, stand up 8. But I believe their story goes even beyond that. They didn't just stand back up on their own. Every time one of them fell, the other became the strength to lift them back up. This wasn't individual resilience, it was something greater. A shared resilience built between two people. 7 years earlier, he was a man working at a rental counter, and she was a skater searching for a partner. But over time, they built something extraordinary, a relationship where they fully understood each other's weaknesses and chose to support them instead of hiding them. That design, that invisible structure between them, was completed on the ice in Milan, and its proof was written in one number, 158.13. Now, let this story ask you something. Ryuichi Kihara once stood on the edge of retirement. Riku Miura was lost in uncertainty. But neither of them gave up. She reached out her hand. He chose to take it, and together they endured 7 long years in Canada, overcoming language barriers, injuries, loneliness, and doubt. And on the other side of all that was 158.13. And there it was. 158.13. Now let me ask you something. Is there a moment in your life right now where you're hesitating to reach out, to take that step? Just like the summer day when Riku Miura made that call. Is there a decision in front of you that you could act on today? No one knows what kind of future that one step could create 7 years from now. But if you don't take it, you'll never see that future at all. I'd really like to hear your thoughts. So drop a comment below and share what this story means to you. And to you, who stayed until the very end of this video. The story of this pair wasn't only shining on the ice in Milan. It began at a skate rental counter in Nagoya, continued through a small shared house in Canada, and reached its peak under the bright lights of the world stage. Every step along that journey carried its own light. If this story left something with you, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. In the next video, I'll bring you another powerful story from the world of sports, one you've never heard before. The flame they spent 7 years building didn't go out when they stepped off the ice. It's still burning.